I was just wondering, what do you see as the best way that the Gordon community and Christian community can be supportive?
Just in terms of the conversation of sexual orientation, at least in my process of thinking over what it is, the aim until in general seems to be one of agreement, trying to get the other side to agree with you. And ultimately, I think that that's the reason why it fails and the conversation goes nowhere. And if the goal wasn't agreement but understanding, for example, with the story of my parents, if I can tell their story and do justice to it and share the pain and the grief that they've gone through, could they do the same for me? Even if they don't necessarily agree with me, but could they at least share my story in a way that would do justice to it? You know, and in that way, we can at least say we understand each other and we can mourn for each other and we can be there for each other, even if we don't necessarily agree with each other. You know, and maybe the conversation won't go anywhere from that, but there's at least healing to be found in that initial place of understanding.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say dialogue is what maintains a relationship, even if it seems stilted or both parties are hurt. If they're still communicating, like there's still hope for connection. And I think to stop the dialogue or to not be willing to listen to the other side, no matter what you think is right or true, then we're all in a lot of trouble.
Has two questions really fast. The first for ma'am. You were saying how the word gay is especially has, you know, like lots of, I mean, it's a very loaded word that has, you know, like a lot of other connotations as well. But what do you suggest should be like a more appropriate term for us to like? I mean, of course, we have to be sensitive, and then as another question to either of you, what steps do you think that the church should take to be more appropriate in its response to this subject?
That's a wonderful question, and one that lots and lots of people have thought about. What word do you use? Gay is definitely a loaded word, and I mean, for myself, I like the word queer better, just because it seems to have fewer well, I like it for a lot of political reasons. It's not traditionally male. It's, you know, all these feminist things. I feel like it I feel like it describes my sexuality better, in that it's not black and white. It's sort of queer. Like you're like not quite sure. And I feel that about most things. But really, I think even more deeply than that, it goes back to dialogue and to talking to any person who is, I mean, different, or who does, you know, attest to a different sexual orientation or any difference, really. Like what would you like to be called? Would you like to be called anything at all? Would you like to go out for a milkshake? Like, you know.
And then in addressing your second question as to how the church should respond, honestly, I still don't know. I don't. It's such a difficult issue. And I realize in terms of, you know, there are fractions of the church which are coming to accept it, but that ultimately is breaking the church apart. Probably like an overreaction, but I don't know. I really don't know.
True.
Hi there. Thanks again for sharing today. It really means a lot to everyone out here. I apologize in advance if this is a loaded question, but I'm curious, what are a couple of the things that, despite all the trials and tribulations you face, really bring you back to the faith when you're, when you're really down and you've hit rock bottom, that really keep you coming back, despite just being raised in the faith? What keeps you from just abandoning it and really want to stay with it?
That's a good question. I tried, in addition to being straight, I tried really hard to be an atheist and couldn't manage it. So I wish I knew. I don't actually know what it is that keeps me coming back, other than insofar as I can't be honest about myself and not be gay, I can't be honest about myself and not also be a Christian. It's something that's so deeply ingrained in me, whether it's, completely nurtured or anything like it's. I mean, I catch myself praying. It's really strange. But I can't stop myself, and I've stopped trying to stop myself. I guess the goal at this point is more just integrating them and trying to see how that works.
Ultimately, the idea of an existence without a God seems incredibly lonely to me. And faith obviously does not look like it did when I was younger, but ultimately, for me, it's just I find the idea beautiful. The idea of a God who joins his creation to save it is a beautiful idea, and I can hope in that. A lot of other things I don't know what I can say about, but at least this grand narrative I can say I find to be beautiful, and that I hope in that.
Caroline, this is for you. You said that you feel like Abraham looking up at the dark, starry night and just hoping that loneliness is kind of where you're at, but you're comfortable there. And I'm wondering how you find that peace. Because I feel like that a lot of people find themselves there and they all think that they're alone, but that they're convincing themselves it's okay. So I'm wondering how you do it.
That's such a good question. I think more than anything else maybe in my life, I take comfort in honesty. And just knowing that if I'm going to be judged, as is the, general Christian belief, there is a God who, has moral standards for us, then he might as well judge me for exactly who I am. And that way, I don't have nothing I would have changed. So in some ways, that's comforting to me. But I think maybe the thing that I've realized more than anything is that none of us really have traditional doctrine to fall back on, even if it feels like we do, even if it feels like, because we're agreeing with our parents and, carrying on the faith in that tradition, which is really a beautiful thing, that covers us. And I don't think it does. And I think we all have areas where we are standing in the desert, in the dark, looking up and trying to figure out how we're supposed to respond or to interact with a world that just doesn't quite make any sense. And a God that doesn't quite make any sense. But but that's what there is, you know? Like that's you're interacting then with the reality rather than an illusion. And I think that's what comforts me. Can't fall asleep at night, which is less and less often.
What are some ways that you have particularly struggled maybe within this community, and what might be some ways in which the members of this community could better respond or change the ways of behavior that we have currently?
To be honest, Gordon has been incredible for me. I really haven't faced any real negative experiences. I started opening up to my close friends around sophomore year. And even though I've been very selective until now about who I chose to tell, you know, it's always been responded to with an incredible amount of compassion and understanding. And perhaps it's just the social circles that I choose to be around as well. I guess just the generic, like watching how you say, what you say. Because chances are if you do have a friend who is gay, they're probably listening to how you talk about it to decide whether or not they can trust you with it. So really, any time you talk about it, you know, it not necessarily has to do with your moral standpoint, but as long as you talk about it with sincere compassion, you know, somebody who's gay, they can pick up on that.